Mind if I join you? Table's got the best view in the whole galaxy, and yours is the only one nobody's brave enough to sit at.
The dining car of the Meridian Express hummed with the low thrum of a warp coil somewhere beneath the floorboards, its brass fixtures and oil lamps swaying gently as the train-shaped starliner cut across the black. Outside the reinforced viewport, the Andromeda arms spiraled in silver dust, indifferent to the small dramas unfolding inside. Captain Ethan Colton Marsh had flown transport routes for 6 years, and in that time, he had learned to read a room the way other pilots read instrument panels. Tonight, the dining car was reading wrong. Near the window, alone at a table set for two, sat a woman unlike anyone else aboard. Her skin held the pale blue-white of moonlight on frost, her hair swept into an elegant silver knot, and her hands were folded in front of her in a gesture that looked almost like prayer. She wore a cream and gold robe stitched with patterns Ethan didn't recognize, but instinctively understood meant someone important. No one sat near her. No one even looked at her directly. The reptilian traders in the back booths murmured behind clawed hands. The waitstaff served her water and nothing else, then hurried away, like she might catch fire. Ethan had heard the rumors 2 days into the journey, that she was Selari Vaineth, last daughter of House Vaineth, a luminary noble line from a border world that had, 3 decades ago, been on the losing side of a war most of the ship's other passengers had fought in, lost family in, or profited from. Old grudges didn't care that Selari herself had been a child when the war ended. Old grudges rarely cared about anything except themselves. He set down the tray he'd already loaded for his own dinner, looked at it, and then walked back to the service counter. "Another full plate," he told the steward. "Same as mine. And a coffee, black extra mug." The steward blinked. "That's for her table, sir?" "That's for her table." The walk across the dining car felt longer than it should have. Conversations dipped as he passed. He didn't care. He set the second tray down across from Selari with the same easy motion he'd use for any passenger, steam curling up from the roast, and the fresh bread, the mug of coffee marked with the transport line's insignia, CW, Coalition Wayfare, stamped into the ceramic. "Mind if I join you?" Ethan asked. Table's got a great view of the galaxy, and mine's stuck next to a card game I'm losing badly. For a moment Selari only stared at him, as if waiting for the punchline, for the cruelty she'd clearly braced for since boarding. Then, slowly, something in her shoulders loosened. "You may," she said, her voice carrying a musical lilt, careful and precise, like a language translated with love. "Though I should warn you, Captain, sitting with me tends to earn a person enemies. I've made worse trades." He sat, unfolded his napkin, and nodded toward her joined hands. "That a luminary custom? The hands like that. A gesture of gratitude," she said. "We do it before meals we did not expect to receive." Her pale eyes flicked toward the rest of the car, toward the whispers she'd clearly been enduring since the ship left dock. "I did not expect this one." "Well, now you've got two." She almost laughed, a small, surprised sound, like she hadn't used it in a while. "They ate." He asked about her home world, Ilvanar Prime, and she described its twin moons and its floating gardens with a wistfulness that told him she wasn't sure she'd ever see it again. He told her about growing up on a cargo freighter, about learning to fly before he learned to drive. Around them, the dining car slowly stopped pretending not to watch. It was the reptilian trader, the eldest of the group in the back booth, scales the color of dried moss, a scar tracing one brow ridge, who finally stood. Ethan tensed, half rising, but the trader only walked to the edge of their table and set down a small carved token, an old peace charm from his own people. "My daughter died in that war," the trader said low. "I am not ready to forgive House Vaineth, but I watched you sit with her, fly boy, and eat like nothing was wrong. Made me ask myself why nothing should be wrong anymore. He looked at Cellari. I am not offering friendship, girl. Only room to breathe. He returned to his booth. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was a crack of light in a door that had been sealed shut the entire voyage, and Cellari's composed face finally broke, just slightly, just enough for Ethan to see how much the silence of the last 2 days had cost her. Thank you, she said quietly, to Ethan, to the trader, to the car at large. By the time dessert arrived, untouched by anyone but them, since the steward still seemed too nervous to serve her table directly, 2 more passengers had drifted over with hesitant nods, one offering a spare deck of cards, another simply saying her name correctly for what she admitted was the first time all trip. It didn't erase 30 years of war. It didn't undo the empty tables or the whispered warnings other passengers had clearly given each other before boarding. But it cracked something open that had needed cracking for a long, long time. 3 days later, when the Meridian Express finally docked at Cerridon Station, Cellari Vaineth stepped off the gangway not as the silent, avoided woman who'd boarded, but flanked by a small, unlikely cluster of fellow travelers who'd come to see her off. The trader, 2 card players, a nervous young steward now grinning ear to ear, and Ethan Marsh, who carried her second bag without being asked. You didn't have to pick up that tray, she told him at the gate, sunlight from Cerridon's twin stars spilling gold across the platform. No, Ethan agreed, but I'm glad I did. She reached out and, for the first time since boarding, offered her hand instead of folding it in that private gesture of guarded gratitude. He shook it. Somewhere behind them, the old trader gave a short nod that might have been the beginning of something like peace. 1 table, 1 tray, 1 small refusal to look away at a time.